Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So in this series of sessions, we are going to talk about or explain Microsoft Access. We already finished Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint, and now we are going to talk about Microsoft Access. Microsoft Access is a database management system or relational database management system. It's part of the Office 365 package or suite. It is mainly used to manipulate databases, in which the database is a way to organize your data in the computer. You can organize them, manipulate them, edit, analyze the data. Similar to Excel, but not the same. Similar to Excel in a way that it organizes the data in columns and rows, but they have a different structure and different functionality. So first of all, you can start Microsoft Access same way you started Microsoft PowerPoint and Word, and it's going to have a similar application interface. As we said before, I'm going to start by creating a new blank database from here, or you can go to new and select new blank database. You can name it anything. I'm going to name it DB tables. Actually, you can name it any other things if you want, and I will create. You can save it anywhere. We can create this database as you can see here. When Access opens, you're gonna find out that the interface is very similar to other Office applications, in which it has this ribbon, different tabs, and this area here where you can enter your data. In Word, you remember this area called document. In PowerPoint, it's called slide. In Excel, this area called sheet. Here in Access, it's not one item, it's not one object. You have several objects that we are going to talk about, which is tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, and codes beyond the scope of this course, so we're not going to talk about them. In this session, we are going to focus on tables. Okay, so remember, Access file is called database, and database has several objects including tables, queries, forms, and reports. By default, you have table 1 created with only one field, which is an auto number. Table, just like Microsoft Word, consists of rows and columns. In Access, not Excel, in Access, the rows are called records, the columns are called fields. When you design your table, you create fields, in other words, columns, and then you enter the data as records, as we will see in a minute. So I will go to the Home tab. You see here, when you select the table, you can go to Views. You have two different views here, Datasheet View and Design View. Datasheet is very similar to Excel, which is also Datasheet, because it has rows and columns. As I said, they are called here records and fields. And then you go to the Design View. When you go to the Design View at the beginning, it's going to ask you to save your table first. So I'm going to save it as employee. And you're going to have the design view of your table. In this view, you have this view area here, or this table area here, and the field properties. In the table area, you are going to create your fields. You set the data type for each field, description if you want, since it's optional, and then you can change the properties when needed. Each field must have a data type. The data type is the type of your field, whether it's a number, text, logical, date, and other types, as we will see here. We are not going to go through all of the types, but I'm going to guide you through most of them. So first of all, this is the field name, imp ID. I'm going to call it imp ID. Sorry, not imp. ID stands for employee. Of course, you can set any name you want. It's much better to set a common sense name, or a name that you can understand when you come back to your table design later on, or when you view your table information. Okay, so this is the imp ID, and it's going to be auto number. Auto number means you will not enter the data yourself. Excel will enter them starting from 1, then 2, 3, etc., etc. Okay, The auto number is very useful because you will make sure that this field is automatically filled by access, but you cannot change the the values of this data type. So if the number is 2, you cannot make 3, 4, or 5, even if this number is not or does not exist, as we'll see shortly, inshallah. So here you can write a description, and again, this description is just optional. Employee, for example, work number. Just a description. Then we're gonna write imp if name, which is going to be short text. You see here, first name, copy this. You see this short text. Now I will go down to the field properties. As I said, you can change the field properties if needed. So now what is the property that I'm going to change here? I will go to the field size. I'm going to make it 25, for example. I don't want this field to be 255. Again, this 255 is going to be in your memory, so you don't need to waste a lot of your memory. It's a good habit that you learn to assign a field size that is suitable for your actual data. Because some students say, okay, there is no harm if we keep it 255. You might not feel the effect of it if you have a very small database, but if you have a very long database like university, bank, or a big company, large company, then wasting a lot of your memory is going to make your file size much bigger, which takes longer time to upload, download, or even to process. So it's always a good habit and a good practice to learn this from the beginning. Of course, formatting. In some data types you have formatting, as we will see in the number and the date, but not here. Also, input mask, you can set a specific input mask, and we are gonna do it for the phone number and so on. You can add a default value if you want. For text or for names, you're not gonna add a default value. You can make it required, which means you must enter a value, you cannot leave it empty, and so on and so forth. Of course, you can say this to yes. Now I'm gonna write imp underscore last name, and it's gonna be short text as well. It's gonna be 25 required, and I'm gonna write the description last name. Okay, and then I'm gonna write imp DOB, which is date of birth. Now this is going to be another type from here. You have dates and time, and you have date and time extended. I'm going to go for date and time, and here you see the formatting. You can change the formatting. As I said before, some data types has formatting, some they don't. Text, they don't have formatting, but for the date and time, for numbers, they have. I'm going to go for medium date here. It's not required, but I'm going to add a caption. The caption is the displayed name of your field, as you will see now. Not now, after a while, date of birth, as you can see, and it's not required. Then I'm going to say imp salary, and I'm going to select this to be currency. Okay. Of course, you can go to the format of the currency and select which currency you want: euro, fixed, standard, percent, whatever. This is the standard currency. It's going to be in the Microsoft in US dollars, sorry. And you can select how many decimal places you want. Let's say I want 2 decimal places. And you can, of course, set caption if you want. For example, this is going to be salary. Okay, no need to be caps all, because I want to display it. I don't want to display it as imp salary. Salary is going to be enough. It's required yes, no. You can say it yes. You can keep it no or yes. Up to you. And I'm going to just write imp phone number here, and I'm going to write phone number to demonstrate the use of input mask. Okay. Usually I'm going to keep the phone number as text, usually use numbers only when the field required or going to be used in calculations like sum, subtraction, average, something like this. Otherwise, you can keep it a text even if the value has digits like phone number. So I'm going to keep it like this if you want, or you can make it 50, for example. Now I'm going to go to input mask. You see when you click these three dots, you must save the table first. Okay, save it. You see you have this input mask wizard. We're not going to go through details again because this is an introductory course. We're not going to go into advanced techniques of Microsoft Access. But here you see you can select phone number, social security number, zip code, extensions, password, and so on. So I'm going to use phone number, and of course this is a standard US phone number where you have 3 digits and then 3 digits dash 4 digits. Of course, if you want, you can click here whatever you want to do and what exactly the input mask that you want to change. Again, but I'm not going to go through this. This is basically what you need to know, that you can assign input mask like this way. Then you click next. You see you have 9s and 0s. Actually, the difference here is 9. It means that you can write a digit or you can leave it empty if you want, because usually this is sometimes a country code like Bahrain 973 or 971 for UAE and so on. But zeros is a must. It means here you can write the number or you can leave it empty. Digit in this way because it's 9. 0, it's a must. You must write or type a digit. Actually, you can find in support.microsoft.com the full list of all these input mask characters. And again, I'm not going to go through those. I'm going to click next just to simplify things actually. So how do you want to store the data? With the symbol in the mask or without the symbol in the mask? Let's store it with the symbol in the mask. And then we're going to click next and then finish. And we are going to see how it's going to be written. You see this here, how it's going to be written. This is the mask and these are the values of the input mask if you want to enter them manually, but we are not going to enter these manually as we said. We are going to use input mask. What else you can use actually here? You can let's say imp address, and in this field here I'm going to say I'm going to select lookup wizard. In this actually lookup wizard you can select a field to get a value from another table, or you type the values yourself. This is useful if you want to select the values from a list. I'm going to say next. I'm going to enter the values myself. Bahrain, and then UAE, and then KSA, and then Kuwait, Oman, and so on. That's for the GCC, and then we can select next. Okay, you can limit the values to list, which means you cannot enter new addresses. You cannot add new addresses. For example, you cannot add Jordan, Egypt, Iraq. You cannot do this. But if you keep it like that, then you can add an entries of your choice. And I'm going to select finish. We are going to just keep it limit to the list for now. And that's it for the table design. We created different types. For the auto number, I'm going to select actually, and let's just keep it number. I'm going to change it later on to show you how to edit your fields. So we have different values. You have auto number, short text, of course long text for descriptions, you don't need it, date and time, currency, short text again, and short text again. When you are done, save your work and go to the datasheet view. You see here you have a default value which is 0, and now you can just start entering the value as you want. You see, this is the caption, date of birth, and this is the caption which is date of birth. This is a new, you cannot enter a value because it's an auto number. I'm going to write Ahmed Ali, date of birth. Let's go here and I'm gonna just write it manually. 12. The salary is $1,000. The phone is As you can see here, I'm gonna write 1 2 3 1 1 1 2 2 2 2. Okay, and then the addresses, you cannot write a new address, you need to select any one of those. We'll select Oman. For this one is Mustafa Muhammad, 15 June 11, the salary is, and here I can just type 222333. You see, you can, the value entered isn't appropriate for the input mask, you need to do this. Since we put it this slash, then you need to enter the values. Okay, I'm gonna say don't worry, I'm gonna just write 546, any ID. Oh, sorry, the problem here is we need to enter another value. Okay, and then let me check if I delete this. Yes, as expected, it's fine. You can keep this empty if you want, but I'm gonna just make it 1 2 3 as well. And this is going to be Bahrain, actually, and so on and so forth. Okay, you can write Sarah Sami, 13 July 2010. And this is going to be in case A. Okay, I'm going to write another value here. Hani, not Hami. And it's going to be 10. For example, okay, you see you cannot enter a value that does not exist. So I'm gonna just write, okay, it's in Kuwait. Or let's say in UAE, okay, let's keep it Kuwait here. And that's it. So now basically you can double click just to show this, just like Microsoft Excel. Again, you can select these fields. You can center align them. You can change the formatting. You can do anything you want. Actually, this is gonna affect only the display of your data. Now, can I change the data fields or the data type from the datasheet view, or I should go to the design? Some properties and datasheet can be added, but not all of it. And for example, I can go to the salary, for example, here. I go to the table fields, and then from the currency format, I select euros. So it's going to be in euros. This is not going to make a problem. I can go to the employee ID and change it to a number. But before changing it to a number, let me delete this record here. You see, when you delete a record, you need to remember that this record cannot be undone. The deletion cannot be undone. You cannot undo and get the record back. So make sure that you are 100% sure before you delete your record. So I'm gonna delete my record. I'm gonna add the name, for example, Sarah, Murad. Anyway, just names that comes to my mind. And then it's gonna be 0 to 5. And it's gonna be in UAE, for example, here. You see, it is not 3. There is no 3 anymore. With the auto number, you cannot go back to the number you deleted. If you want to go back, then you need to select this field, go to the data table, to table fields, and then you change it to a number, and this is not going to be a problem. From here, you can select any kind of numbers that you want, actually, general number, currency, and so on and so forth. Okay? And if you go to the, let me save, if you go to the design, you can either select extra thing from the field size that is not available in the datasheet, which is byte, integer, long integer, single. Actually, they are different in size: 1 byte, 2 bytes, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. These are integers, these are decimals, so it can be with fractions, and with points: 3.5, 3.7, 7.2, something like this. I'm going to keep it to byte because they are very small. Again, it's always a good practice as you learn to avoid wasting your memory. Now I can go here and make it 3. And you see, after I close and I open again, it's going to be organized automatically by this field. Why this field? Because this field is a primary key. You see, you might notice that there is a small key icon here beside the imp ID. This means that this field is a primary key. Primary key field means it's the main field of your table. Cannot be empty. It must be unique. The values cannot be duplicated. Of course, you can select more than one field and make them primary key, but this is rarely happening. And you can leave the table without a primary key, and this is a very poor practice or not good practice, because this is very useful for certain things like relationships that's going to be discussed later on, and other access operations. You are going to set the primary key. Your primary key definitely in the university is your university number. In your life is your CPR number, social number, and passport number, anything. I'm going to save. I'm going to go to the datasheet. Again, if you want, you can sort the table based on any field. So you see, when you sort it from Z to A, it's going to be changed, but all related data or related entry is going to be changed. The whole row. As I said, this is called record, and this is called field. As you can see here, field width, not column width. And as you can see here, it's okay, it's called row height, but the official naming for it, it's record. If you go to a database, a book, and read it, and basically, and the name conventions are not, they are important, but they are not going to be a problem if you call it column and row instead of field and record. Okay, the last thing that we're going to talk about here is that you can add a new field from here. You see, this is going to be a new field. I'm going to make this field yes, no. Okay, and this is going to be status. For example, this employee, or this employee, for example, is active or inactive, okay, on leave or not on leave. And if you go to the table fields, you see, you can select yes, no, true, false, on, off. They are just different, sorry, in their meaning, but they do the exact same thing. On, off, 0, 1, yes, no, true, false, exactly the same. Just the way you display them. You see, exactly the same thing. No change, okay? But it depends on the context of what you want to be. I'm going to say yes, no. You can just change this on, and you change it to on leave. It's going to be yes or no. I might say Mustafa is on leave and Noor is on leave as well. But again, they are just an example. And this is basically Microsoft's access tables that you can create from here. You can create any number of tables that you want. You see, you can create a new table. It's going to be table 1. When you do the design, you need to save it. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to select delete. One more thing before I finish is this thing. You see, you cannot delete the table. Why? This is a common mistake that happens to students when they do their exams or their assessments. You cannot delete an object while it's open. You have to close this and it's going to be deleted. You see here, you cannot go and delete the table. You cannot delete the table because it is already open. I will save. Now when you close, you can delete it, but I don't want to delete my table right now. Of course, you can do spell checking, you can do filtering, a lot of other things that is similar to what you did in PowerPoint and Microsoft Word. Thank you very much for listening. See you in next session, inshallah, in which we are going to talk about queries, relationships, and other objects.